do you move on to? Because you've done what you said was your threshold for saying whether or not you felt confident making a feature.
Yeah.
And we know a couple of extra shorts came at this point. You continue developing your skills.
Yeah.
What was your plan from here? What did you feel you needed to develop? How did you go about it?
So obviously after 3 a.m, after 3 a.m, I was confident to do a feature. I really was. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. But at the end of the day, you still need money. You still need opportunity to do so. And who was going to invest in a 23, 24-year-old at that point?
Understandable.
I was in this kind of situation where I was watching a few other filmmakers I knew at the time who were making features. But they were doing the old, let's just get a DSLR, shoot it, a 90-minute thing where it's like just two people talking for 90 minutes. Or it wasn't ambitious. It was literally like, let's just do what we do for a short film, but we'll make it 90 minutes and it's a feature. And I'll be real, I didn't respect that because I was like
it's like you're still making a short.
If it's a good idea, sure. If it's a good idea and it organically comes a feature, yes, I respect it.
But if you're making a 90-minute short, it's cheating.
It's not that I don't respect people trying to make a low-budget feature. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did a low-budget feature. But it's more, if you're making it a feature for the sake of it being a feature, then it's like, you're in it for the wrong intention there. You know what I mean? Like,
so
if it organically comes a feature,
okay,
awesome, great, roll with that and crack the whip on that for sure. That's what I'd advise. But if you're sitting there going, I'm just going to put like, I'm not going to mention it, but there's a film that came out of there during that time where it's like two people talking for 90 minutes or something, or 80 minutes. And it's in black and white and they're just talking. And it's like, okay, cool. I don't mind it, but why? Like, what's it going to do? Like, this isn't the 60s and 70s where we're struggling for content. You know what I mean? Or in the 50s when you're struggling for content.
That's even more relevant these days.
Yeah, now the thing is, people need... when we got into TCage, like everybody needs to be able to the technical aspects matter so much now. They matter so much. Like no one's going to watch Clerks these days. They just won't.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everyone is so used to high production value.
Well, it's not that difficult to do it well.
High production value is so accessible. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many cameras that everyone's got access to. I mean,
we've got enough spare DSLRs.
Everyone's shooting on Alexa and Red now. Everyone is.
Yeah. I mean, the DSLRs, we've got enough spare DSLRs to do a podcast.
Yeah. So you got all that. So back then I was seeing people doing it, but I always said to myself, I'm not going to make my first feature a shit show. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to make it, I wouldn't do it 3 a.m. style. Like that's why 3 a.m. was always the bridge, because we pushed the threshold of how much we could accomplish in terms of that kind of, trying to do it in 6 days. Now, that being said, I'd also love to have the confidence to say, well, if I could do a feature in 6 days, I can. Because I do believe I probably can. Would it be the best I can deliver? Fuck no. You know what I mean? So, and I want to make sure I'm putting my best work out there.
But
so
this time you wouldn't wake up on the side of the freeway.
I wouldn't wake up on this, So, as I kind of moved on from 3 a.m, it was like, all right, well, a feature might not be realistic in the next year or so.
So what did you feel you needed to develop or wanted to?
So what I decided to do was I spoke in week 1, I think, about a script I'd written called St. Michael's Alley.
Yes.
And I'd kind of written the feature version of that, and I knew the feature version was a long way off. But I thought to myself, I want to really challenge myself in terms of storytelling. So I had this idea in mind and this full story that the feature was going to be. So I said to myself, I'm going to make a trilogy of short films based on this concept. So they're going to be side stories to the feature. So not going to be stories that are in the feature, but almost like things that can almost lead to the feature.
So at this point, this is probably the first time you've really set up a cinematic universe.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
So let's talk a bit about that. What do you do to set up a cinematic universe as opposed to a film?
Yeah, so what I was doing was, because I had the feature film already written, I already had the 3 concepts in mind. And the way I was doing this was going through now, putting everything together, because I was like, I'm going to play with color palettes. I'm going to start playing with certain tones and certain things. So I kind of decided to go, okay, well, I'm going to shoot one in a brothel, one in a bar, and one in a church. So the settings were already characters.
Yep.
The settings showed so much characteristic to what would you find in this place. Because again, the St. Michael's Alley is a very fictional place. So it's like I want to showcase 3 venues. One, because the thing with St. Michael's Alley is I knew I was going to need a budget to shoot that thing. So I was like, well, with the shorts, I'll just do them interior. So you don't have to worry about exteriors and stuff, and it's more achievable. So I was like, I want 3 decent interiors. So I thought a brothel room, a bar, and a church with the 3 ways to go. And so my mind was all on this trilogy, how to create this trilogy, right? So I kind of got into the scripts and I started writing them, and then and because I'm in a mode is when I start working on something, I want to go. So 3am at this point was still in post. We were having a few issues with it and speed bumps with it. And so I decided to do the first trilogy film later that year. So I think in November 2011, we got into the trilogy.
Nice.
Now, this is a funny one. So this was the first time I got to work with, you were talking about Johnny before, Johnny Marr from WA. This is the first time I think we worked together as producer-director.
And this is, I'm sure you elaborate
on
working
I don't give a shit who I offend. He's the best producer I've ever worked with. I love working with Johnny. Like, he gets me. He knows what I'm trying to do. He's ambitious like me. He's a fucking hustler like me.
So what are the advantages of a producer that gets you and works with you well?
They can tell me when they don't like something. They tell me straight. They've got that assertive ability to, but there's also the respect there. And the one thing me and Johnny always had was we respected one another. There was no competition there. It was pure respect. It wasn't like that alpha male going at each other kind of thing. It was
more
just
that
pure.
Both of you have your back.
Yeah, we knew that whatever we were trying to say and put forward, we we're trying to accomplish for the best for the project. So it wasn't an ego thing. Like, we both got egos, but we were both happy to.
Not only that, let's face it, Johnny is incredibly resourceful.
Yeah, 100%. So I got to work with him, which was fucking awesome and fun, and I loved it. And he took charge. And to have, because I'm a very, I'm a very take charge. I'm going to do this. To have somebody carry that weight with you is incredible.
Nice.
And I haven't really felt I've had that since, if that makes sense. So he was good with it. So he was taking on a lot of it himself, and which kind of made my life so much easier. It took so much weight off the shoulders, and I was able to kind of focus in on just directing. It was crazy. Like I usually every film I'd done till then, I was co-producer on. Like, I'd always help, even though I didn't credit myself as co-producer, I would still do it.
You are kind of good at it. Oh, yeah. You always came out as EP anyway.
Yeah. So
executive producer.
Yeah, but always but I'd always kind of co-produce with the producer. But the trilogy, nah. Like the trilogy, nah. Like,
you just directed?
Just got to direct, and that was so much fun and different experience. And I remember, like, with the first film in the trilogy, which was called Hooker and a Henchman, we kind of got into that, and the location we used, I think, was Johnny's shed. So it was funny as well, because when you look at the film, you wouldn't think it was a shed. So we had Elena, who I was talking about earlier. She came in production, designed it.
Wait. Okay, that explains why a shed looked like that. I remember.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that.
I've never seen that. Was amazing. Like, I remember walking in on my jaw dropped. I was like, "You've turned, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
And we were just amazed. Like, oh my god, nothing.
Elena, please move to Melbourne.
Yeah, nothing but love to Elena. And I remember that was cool as well. And I remember we wanted it to be real red theme to it, So we used a lot of red gel, and
there was a lot of red
color
in that.
Red, yeah, a lot of color palette was red there, and we kind of played with that because that was the idea, was to have the first one be red, the second one play with that really kind of westerny gold kind of feel vibe to it, and then the last one was going to be blue. So that was kind of the main things we're going for. So kind of warm, cold, and in between.
Bit of an RGB.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the wrong G.
Yeah, wrong G. But so kind of getting into Hooker Henchman was fun, and that was kind of what we worked on there, and that kind of went through the process. But then I remember with Hooker Henchman, I remember we got through it, and there was a couple of elements I didn't like. So I was kind of a little bit like I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
Well, what were some of the elements? Okay. So you probably could have gone through, looking at the performances a bit better at some point, figuring out the way people talk.
Yeah, I think the chemistry and the performances and some of that I learned a good lesson about casting in that film.
Okay.
So I learned a very good lesson about casting in that film, of how the audition room can trick you on set.
Okay.
So that was a good lesson to learn. So there was that film, and then we kind of, again, so I wasn't in love with that film, but we got it done. And then I went into the next one of the trilogy, and I remember writing that script, Wild Couple, and that was my favorite short film script I ever wrote. I love that script, and still to this day I love that script. And I remember we shot that.
So how did the dynamic for that change after Hooker and the Henchman? You're in the same universe. You're on the second film. You weren't too happy with the first one.
Yeah, I was happy with the visuals of the first one.
Okay.
I was really happy with the visuals. I thought it looked good. I thought the set dressing was great. Costumes was great. I just felt like between the script and performances and maybe...
You probably could have taken it in a different direction.
Yeah, I think I felt a little shackled in that one, because I felt there was only so much capabilities that I could use on that film. I'm trying to be as nice as I can in saying that. But yeah, overall, I wasn't... Yeah, there was one very important element to it I wasn't happy with, which stopped me from wanting to push it.
Gotcha.
And then when we got into the second one, it was the polar opposite. The performances were fucking gold. The script was better. Visually, it was fantastic. Set dressing wise was great too. But the location gave us all the set dressing anyway. So that was fun. That was a fun shoot. That was a really fun shoot. That was one of my favorite short film shoots I did.
So what made that one work? Apart from performances, are you feeling at this point like, okay, we're on professional sets yet, or did you still have stuff to learn?
So the funny thing with the trilogy was I loved working in small crews. So with 3AM, obviously there was more cast than crew on 3AM. So 3AM, it was me directing, Stewie doing sound, George shooting it. I think we had Frino, who was a makeup artist. Special effects makeup artist, she was on. And I think we had old mate of ours, Lionel, like he was doing lighting.
Yep.
So there was only really 5 of us on the crew the whole time. So you go, there's 5 crew and 6 cast.
Wow.
3AM. And then when we did Hooker Henchman, I think it was something similar. I think we only had like 6 or 7 crew members. And then Wild Couple, I think was like, I don't know, I've got no memory of it, but maybe like 10 to 14. But the funny thing as well, through 3AM, Hooker Henchman, Wild Couple, we went without a first AD.
Well, you kind of had, you and George.
So me and George would kind of just run the set. So I was kind of doing both jobs. I think second AD, Wild Couple, we brought on a second AD, who then I credited as first AD. So
I noticed you've got first ADs again since. What things from those 2 films made you realize, okay, first ADs work, even though George and I both know it?
Just somebody to explain what we're doing. So
Gotcha.
I don't have to do it. Like, that's a real bad. Now, to be honest, look,
if I got to say, you got to stay in the zone as a director.
Because again, don't forget, I'm an experienced first AD, and I think the first AD is an incredibly important skill, like incredibly important crew role. Like it's one of the most important crew roles.
Oh yeah, you're basically the general.
Yeah. So my problem with it, I just don't like being told shit if I already know what I'm doing. You got that stubbornness. Everyone's got that stubbornness, right? So I'm like, well, don't tell me something that... But if I had an experienced first AD who would then come to me and say, here's a solution, right, I would love it. I would fucking love it. I just hate first ADs that tell you the problem.
It's like,
I'm like, I know the problem. I've created the problem.
Right? And that's actually a good thing to quickly touch on, because a lot of people think that first ADs, manage time and they're the ones that have to make the call of, no, you're not going to get this. When in reality, they're the ones that are going, no, I'm going to help you fight to get this.
Yeah, first AD is not necessarily what you can and can't get. They're trying to make it gettable.
Yeah.
But there comes times where it's just not gettable. And it's not achievable. And
you're supposed to trust
first AD needs to work out why it's not achievable.
Yeah.
Because that was the challenge I used to cop as an AD. It would be like, well...
And the moment you got the why, you can start working on solutions.
And I used to know, and this is what I said, like, I used to study directors when I AD. I studied them because I was like... And that's where my confidence comes from, because if you ask me why I think I'm a good director, it's because I know what I want. I know what I want. And the amount of times I've seen sets where things aren't achievable because the director does not know what they want. But they're pretending they do. And that's the worst thing. If a director acknowledges they don't know what they want, fair enough. Okay, let's collaborate. Let's work on what you want. But if they pretend they know what they want and deep down you fucking know they don't, then you're like, okay, that's why things aren't achievable. That's why we're running behind, because you've got no freaking clue what you want. You're not planning this thing out. You haven't got your roadmap. You don't know what you're doing. But you've got the ego of somebody who does. And the second you've got the ego of someone who knows what they're doing and you don't know, you'll get found out.
You're dangerous. No matter what industry you're in, like politics as well.
But this is why back early days when I did my first few shorts, like people that have known me for 12 years knew I grew an ego. Those who have met me in the last 5 think I just came and automatically had an ego. Like I'm the first to admit I've got an ego, but I let it, like, it blossomed through experience.
You're supposed to have some level of confidence.
So it blossomed through experience. So I was able to go, like, my first 3 short films, I was as quiet as a church mouse because I was still sorting shit out and I didn't know what I wanted. So I was still figuring it out, but you didn't see me barking orders and being a dick. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I've worked with, in the last couple of years, I've seen directors who are not that experienced that are kind of, they love the role. You know what I mean? They love the title of director, but they just don't know what they're doing properly, and they've got the ego that comes with it. And I said, well, in my opinion, and hate me or love it for saying it, but earn your ego.
And did you find that this made the life of the first ADs you worked with easier as you turned more and more into Kanye Giulietta?
I think, I don't know. You have to ask them.
I imagine, as you're saying, if someone knows what they want.
I've only really worked with 2 since that time, because I think I worked with... since I started using an AD again, I've only worked with 3 ADs. one of them was my ex-girlfriend.
Yep.
The other is a bloke who can't remember his name, but he only did one short with me.
Okay.
Nice guy, nice as hell, but inexperienced. And same thing, TKG. We work with Josh, who, he's learning and he's developing at the time. So I haven't been able to work with an AD with experience. And when I worked with, my ex-girl, I was teaching her as well while she was doing it. So
you were probably more qualified too.
Yeah, so there was also that.
Right? So you were still ADing by proxy.
Yeah, and I think I did that on all of them, really. Nice. Because, again, and it's not a knock on them, because, again, when I was young and ADing, you have to learn by doing. You got to learn how to identify problems in order to solve problems.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And you got to see problems coming. And that's one thing I developed over time, was being able to foresee problems.
And that's just being there, seeing the problems happen and seeing how they're
solved. And
you
learn that by learning who your crew are. And this is, again, it's leadership. You got to know who your team is. You got to know what makes your team click and what their strengths and faults are and things like that. Because when you start to learn about the people that you're working with, then you start to learn, okay, where their challenges going to lie, because their challenges now become my challenges. Mm-hmm. So, if I'm like, okay, well, when something goes wrong, this guy gets really angry, I can foresee he's about to have a temper tantrum. Mm-hmm. So I can try and diffuse that before it starts.
That's fantastic.
Or, you know what I mean? If you're working with a director who is fucking clueless in terms of they don't know what they want, then you learn, okay, well, we started day one, but I'm going to adjust the schedule for day two now because I don't think we're going to accomplish what we're going to accomplish.
I do remember that being particularly annoying because I used to try and time my tantrums for when I actually needed you guys to respect sound.
Yeah.
And then you started actually shutting down camera ahead of time. I mean, it's convenient and professional, but you robbed me of my moment to shine.
I used to love ADing with you and George. Like when you and George were DPing and sound, because you guys both
George would get great shots, I would get great sound.
Yeah,
we wouldn't like each other, but we'd do great.
You'd both have these egos and arrogance to you and stubbornness to you. So when you guys would fight,
we hang around you, go figure.
It's like watching two kids fight. It's funny, and then I'm the parent. So especially when I'm ADing. When I'm directing, I don't give a shit. I just put my head in the sand. You guys can fight until the cows come home.
We do. It's fantastic.
But when I'm ADing, I'm like, nah, man, come on, guys, check your shit at the door. But
you're making me look bad.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. But yeah.
Okay, so back on the Wild Couple at this point. So you've tackled with these things without an AD. What else about Wild Couple did you like? You said performances were standout.
Oh my god, yeah. So Wild Couple was a fun one because it's two characters talking for 80% of the film, and it's just this kind of chess match, verbal kind of chess match. You know what I mean? You got two characters trying to figure each other out, and there's ego there, there's arrogance there, and there's, you know what I mean, an arm wrestle, if you will, and then we kind of have a little action sequence to end it. I don't know. I think that the challenge there was, okay, make it a 16-minute film where 12 of the 16 or 11 of the 16 minutes is held up by two characters. So that's where the script is so important and the performances are so important.
Gotcha.
And the way that we dealt with it, I love the way it was shot too. The way we dealt with coverage. You know what I mean? Of how to play with different angles, profiles, different lenses and everything. I think that was the first film we shot on Red as well. So it was we were kind of working with a new camera at the time. So there was just a lot of elements to it that worked and I felt clicked. And it's still a short film to this day that a lot of people watch and enjoy. And it's one of their favourites of mine too. Because I just felt... And one of the compliments I got, I remember a writer said to me, he's like, I hate shorts that do this, but yours pulled it off. And I was like, because it was 10 minutes of talking heads. He goes, it's always dangerous when you do talking heads. He goes, but this one kept me on the edge of my seat.
Once again, it's to do with the writing. I mean, Aaron Sorkin's show, you can make a career out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and because again, I was very Tarantino inspired at the time as well. You know what I mean? I think the opening scene of Inglourious Basterds is one of my favourite opening scenes in cinematic history. So I think kind of going into that film, I was like, I wanted to challenge myself to see if I can, because I love his writing and I love his dialogue scenes. His dialogue scenes are incredible. So I was like, okay, I want to challenge myself now to see if I can pull that off. And, and without the casting, you don't. Without the performances of Luke and Nick who are in it, it would not have worked. But those guys pulled it off.
Any particular thing you want to say about the way they worked, stuff with their chemistry that you noticed from your previous films? Did you help with any of that?
So it was the first time I'd worked with Nick properly as a director. I think I'd worked with him once or twice as an AD. So it was the first time we got to run it.
And you knew Luke from... when was your first performance with Luke?
Yes, I think it was my third time with Luke.
Yeah.
Third time with Luke. But I love the way he works, because... He thinks of everything. He dots the I's, he crosses the T's. He pitches me ideas all the time, pitches me character traits all the time. So he came up with a lot of his own ideas that helped the film, because he came up with shit I want my character to have a notepad, I want this to happen, him to wear a hat. Like his costume was like, I think I'm pretty sure from memory, I'm pretty sure he kind of was pitching costume ideas to me, and then we kind of put the costume designer onto it. So yeah, stuff like that and that was because you have an actor-director trust relationship there. So it's like, okay, well, I know everything he's pitching to, you know what I mean, for this character and to make it stand out, and it did. Like all of his, because even though his ideas may be small in terms of, I just want a little moment here, a little moment there, they add so much to the tension of the story and tension of the film, what we're trying to achieve.
We try and even out the balance of power in the alley.
Very nice. So, as a director and Damien continuing his progression through his career, what do you feel you've picked up as your main thing out of The Wild Couple?
Script. That was the first time I was like, the first half of 3am and The Wild Couple, I knew I was getting something.
So you were proud of this script?
I was starting to get proud of scripts, and I was starting to also be a little bit more, if I write something, it better be up to standard before I roll the camera. Whereas I felt like Two Minds, Trespass, a couple of the others, even the first draft of 3am that I was going to shoot with, I felt like I was just writing to shoot. You know what I mean? Where I think after Wild Couple, I was like, nah, man, like, because I also got...
How do you tell as a director whether or not you're writing to shoot or you're actually writing well? What kind
I think
of reality checks can you do
I think
yourself?
that's just more, once you start to pass a few hurdles, I think, because you got to remember, like, you progress as a writer, you progress as a storyteller. So, you know, when I did Wild Couple, because a lot of people complimented the script, like, and people who knew me really well, like, they were saying, dude, this is a good shit, this is good shit. Like, you start going, okay, why are they calling it good shit? Because that's what I do. Like, if somebody compliments me, I take compliments take compliments and criticism the same way. So if somebody compliments me or criticizes me, I like to go, all right, why? So I break down, when people kept saying Wild Couple's a great script, I was like, why? Why is it a great script in terms of what I'd already been doing? So instead of having the mindset of, oh, well, the other's shit or the other's trash, instead of thinking that way, you go the other way and go, okay, let's study it. What makes it a good script? So I started going through it again. And when I started learning, okay, shit, yeah, okay, these characters are all sounding different. There's objectives here. There's this real kind of intellectual dialogue happening between them, which probably wasn't evident. And it was also probably one of the first films, well, that and Hooker and Henchman, where it was like, well, we're not doing the whole young adult group of friends go somewhere. You know what I mean? Yep. Where that was evident in like Trespass and Underscore, 3am and stuff. So you felt like you had characters who had never met before and you're putting them in a dynamic and shit. So, and I realized the stakes were so high in that film too. The stakes were incredible, and they were evident in the actual moment. Not necessarily, we're not figurative stakes, it was evident stakes. So I studied that and I was like, okay, this is the level now. I've got to make sure that this is the minimum standard of a script that I'm ready to shoot with. Because if this is the one that people are saying is good compared to my previous work, now this comes the minimum standard, and anything I produce now has to be this or better.
Gotcha. All right. So speaking of this or better, well, I know what came next. Do you want to lead into how you reached your next one?
After Wild Couple? After Wild Couple, I think there was a little bit of a break. I think maybe 6 to 8 months, which for me was a huge break.
Yes.
Because don't forget, I was like every 6 months I was making something at this point. So I was 2 films into the trilogy at this point, but I wasn't off the trilogy, but I was a little bit like, whatever. Like, I think I had an opportunity to potentially make my first feature in 2013. There was talks of me getting money from investors. So I had this script, Mercy of Others, that we're going to make back then, 2013. So I was 25 at this point, and 24, 25. And that kind of film sat there for a little while, and there was this back and forth. And I remember in the end having to turn down the money because we agreed on one thing, and then like the terms were changing every time we were going through it.
Yep.
And it was, again, everything was in initial stages, I think. Like, we kind of were just getting the script ready, and then they were like, no, we want this. And eventually I was like, nah, man. Like, I made an interesting call for a 25-year-old to knock back. Like, I don't want to talk shit, but it was close to $500,000 at least. That was the potential money we could get. And so I knocked it back and said, nah, look, I don't want to make my first feature being compromised like this, because I felt that was going to go down a dangerous road.
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter how much money it is if you can't turn the money into a
So I remember turning that down and then having this kind of like a few month period where I was lost. I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? My heart wasn't necessarily into making shorts at this point.
Well, yeah, you've just turned down your dream.
Well, when you get a sniff of your first feature and then all of a sudden let's go back to writing another short.
Yeah, like I said, you've turned down your dream.
Yeah, but I remember... I think, I was kind of lost for a little bit there, and I was ADing a lot, but I wasn't directing a lot at this point. But I was doing a lot of first AD work, and I think one night we were all at the pub and we started talking Trop Fest, and that's where Lotus Job came up, and it was like I remember saying I've never done a Trop Fest film.
Yes,
like never done a Trop Fest film, and the deadline was less than 2 weeks away or something like that. It was close to like less than 2 weeks away. And I remember we were just gas bagging and talking shit, and then we just came up with it. There was me, you, and George. I think we just came up with a concept one night. And then we're at the pub, and I remember going home, writing some ideas, and I wrote it. And then it was only like 7 pages long. It was like a real, because remember, Cropfest has to be like a 7-minute minimum, I think, 6 or 7 minute minimum.
No, maximum.
Sorry, yeah, maximum. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry,
7 minutes.
Yeah, 7 minute minimum, maximum. Fuck me. And so that was a challenge as well, because don't forget, like at this point in time, I was writing features. I'd come up from 3 a.m., which is a 45-minuter. It was, even like Wild Couple and Hooker Henchman and the St. Mickey stuff was always like nearly 20 pages long, 15 pages long. So to go, okay, we need to do that. And at the same time, you didn't want full drama either. And I think the reason it came up was because all of my stuff was like intense drama or intense thriller, intense horror, like, you know what I mean? So
actually, the reason thing for the conversation was you saying, I want to do something, but I don't know what.
Yeah. And it was also me going like, we were playing with the idea of, you guys really pushed me to do something comedic. And I was kind of like, whatever. But then I was like, well, if we're going to do comedic, it's got to be kind of a mixture. Like, not necessarily drama, but it's going to be slip comedy.
Yeah.
And then, we kind of came up with the idea of Lotus Job, which is about a guy who tries to rob a bar, which had just hosted like a massive competition or something. And then, he gets there to rob it. We should link it, the film. It's on YouTube.
As I was saying, I'm here to take the money belonging to this establishment, not to you, so let's not see anyone act like a hero. Let's all just stay calm. That being said, sir, if you'd kindly like to lock the front door, that'd be greatly appreciated. Okay. Serious?
Okay, no, this is ridiculous.
Sit back down.
Il se fout de ma gueule là.
Sit back down and stay calm. Can you sit her back down before something bad happens? Sorry, she's Scandinavian.
French.
Whatever. Look, mate, I understand why you're here, but look,
Yeah, so few characters in there, nice little short scene. How did you feel about, going for comedic timing there? For those who want to watch the film, we won't spoil, how the ending goes, but they're trying to give our main character, some key information here.
Yeah, so it was a funny one. That again was that was all brought on from Jude. So Jude, who is in it, and she's a filmmaker herself. She's French, obviously.
Scandinavian.
Yes. And so she pretty much reveals the plot in her dialogue, but it's in French.
Yes.
So so that was the funny part. So we and that was an idea we came up with on the day. It wasn't we didn't pre-plan that. We just we also didn't really plan her to be French. It wasn't because we got Jude the role. I said, well, let's play it in French, and she can scream at him in French.
She's French.
Does, yeah. Which then adds to the kind of the intensity of the situation when he's got a hostage that doesn't want to speak English to him. You know what I mean?
And he's dealing with almost every hostage doesn't want to take him seriously.
Yeah. And he's pretty much like, it's a very like abnormal situation for him. You know what I mean? And that was what the fun part about coming up with the film, because it was like, how do I do something that it has got, because we also play to your market. And again, we were talking earlier, like when you create a short film, what should you create it for? When you create it for Tropfest, it's like, well, they like something with at least a bit of comedy in there. They don't like overly, unless it's like, arty kind of purposely built.
It's got to be the Tropfest equivalent of Oscar bait if you're going to make
exactly.
drama.
Yeah. So we're just like, let's have fun with it. And so I remember writing that script, and we thought, okay, let's do some quirkiness in there. But we also knew a lot of the quirkiness had to happen on the day. So, we cast, Liam Graham, who is in the lead guy in Lotus Job. He was fucking awesome. I love working with Liam. And then we had some other guys around Jude, obviously, who did the French stuff. Funny. Dave, who's the guy who saw. Yeah,
Dave's reactions are fantastic.
Yeah, I think he's done. He used to do a lot of comedy over things, so it was good to kind of get him on board. And then
just Sarah, as the bar lady, keeping calm demeanor to offset everything else.
That's a good thing as well, as back then, because when you start building a bit of a rep and career, like your career around town, you start doing things like, these guys are all experienced actors. Like Dave, Liam and Sarah are all very experienced actors. You know what I mean?
But because you're an experienced director, you're now in their loop and you work with them.
Yeah, exactly. And you start to cast better. You know what I mean? You start to your level of casting goes a lot better, because it's like, well, I want to work with people that, and if you give them a good enough script or a cool enough script that they want to buy into, because don't forget, they're looking for opportunities to showcase new talents as well.
Yep.
And showcase new typecasts and new things as well. So
it's good for their show, really.
Yeah, for sure. So they come on board and do that. So it was so much fun, and it was like, we shot it in a day, and obviously, my brother's got the hookup at that bar, so we got the bar for nothing, you know what I mean? So to be able to then shoot in a bar that, was a bit of fun. And then yeah, we kind of shot it in the one day. I think we started editing it that night.
And speaking of editing it that night, this was actually a start of a complete change in dynamic for how you tackled your post-production from this point forward.
Yeah.
Every other time before that, you didn't do your own editing.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we did. Yeah, that's because of the timing and everything. I think I cut. Did I cut Lotus Job?
You and I did.
Yeah.
On this thing. Basically, I did all the rushes, synced it all up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because my philosophy there is always that, when you're syncing stuff up for an edit, by the time I'm finished syncing audio, video, labeling everything, I'm brain dead. I'm not going to do anything creative, and it's probably going to take me a day or two to get out of it. So this is where I liked working with you on that dynamic, because by the time I'd gone in, done all the tech stuff, tied it up and made it easy, you jumped in and you didn't have to do any of that stuff that, drains you. You were still in creative mode, knowing what you wanted.
That's right, we did too. That's right. I came to look at rushes and ended up started cutting. Yeah,
and
so that changed everything.
It worked so well. We kept doing it up to TKG.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we're still doing that kind of same practice today. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's spot on.
It's one of the few things I learned earlier of just separate your technical and your creative, preferably with different people if possible.
Yeah, yep. So that's right. Shit, fucking trip down memory lane. Yeah, and I remember we started cutting it that night, and I think the next day I finished cutting it, and then I think we started sound and grading and shit like that.
Got some music on it.
Put some music. That's right. Put some music on it. And then we submitted it and then released it.
Was that the first time we were taking my new edit suite for a test?
I believe so.
Because that's around the time I thought, stuff it. I'd save my tax return, and we just went all out on a proper,
I believe so. Yeah, it would have been
lovely.
Sure. Yeah, but we shot that on DSLR though as well. So it wasn't like but then I think afterwards we started putting red through it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, Lotus Job was a fun film, to be honest. It's different genre from different style for me, and you know what I mean. It was good fun, and I enjoyed it. And like I said, it was a fun shoot, fun little film. And like I said, it was.
What did you get out of it on your directing journey? Apart from suddenly a lot closer relationship with the edit and post.
Yeah, maybe that. I guess we did a bit more improv-y stuff on it, I think, which was good. And obviously playing a different genre and knowing, okay.
So when you say improv-y, you mean that on the day you thought, okay, this may work, let's go with it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I think the script was stock standard, and on the day we played. We added a few comedy elements on the day. And,
I imagine that was intentional when you were writing it.
Yeah, because we knew that was what, for me, I don't write comedy. But on the day, you can come up with an idea that may or may not work.
And that's because on the day, you'll probably see people there. The comedic moments are easier to pick.
It's what the actors bring to the table. Cool. That's the thing as well. The actors,
and they did bring plenty.
Yeah, and when I think the opening scene of Lotus Job, he comes in with his gun. He's like, everyone on the floor, and the bartender faints.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, on paper that's a hit and miss moment on paper. But when the girl's like, and she does it. Yes. I remember she did it funny. Yeah.
And splat. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, oh my god. She just goes bonk.
Yeah. All right, pricks, lock the doors.
Yeah. And then again, the funny thing, the comedy moments are in this high up angle shot, and then you see Liam's head just kind of come over the bar, point of view style.
So what's going on?
Yeah. So it's moments. So on the day, I was confident. I know we'll get the funny moments on the day. You know what I mean? And I think that's when it comes to comedy, man, if you cast poorly, your comedy's gonna suck. But when you cast right, and actors who can take that responsibility on to shoulder that, and have comedic timing and can shoulder that, they'll kill it.
Cool. So you got your vibe back after Lotus Job?
Yes, after Lotus, but I was hungry, man. So after Lotus Job, I was kind of a bit hungry, and I was like, okay, shit, I want to keep making content. I want to keep doing things. And keep in mind, at this point in time, I was first editing a lot more long-form content. So I was getting first AD jobs or features and series and shit like that, where and when you do a first AD job like that, you might be doing an 8-week shoot, but then you're doing 4 weeks of pre-pro. And then, you know what I mean? So you usually lose 3 months when you take a first AD job.
Yes.
So after Lotus Job, I was keen to direct more. So I was kind of like, well, I don't know whether I'd try to build a feature now or if I try. And at this point in time, don't forget, I was being offered a lot of shit too. I was being offered a few scripts to direct, in terms of features and stuff.
What kept you from taking them?
Didn't like the scripts.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't like the scripts. And again, after the lesson of Mercy in terms of in 2013, to be able to turn down $500,000 to do a feature, my own feature.
Yeah, it's I didn't even like my own script. What chance do these guys have?
Yeah. But when you got the resilience to turn that down because you don't want to compromise your feature film debut. So when you get given a script that you don't necessarily love, it's easy to turn that down. And that happened a few times throughout 2013-14. I was getting scripts that, were going into production, and I think only a couple of them made it through the production process. And then I was getting producers like pitching me shit. There was opportunities to do so many things, but I just didn't love any of it. You know what I mean? And it was like, well, I'm not gonna. I don't want to direct just for the sake of directing. You know what I mean? So when you start to have that kind of, and I say the same to actors, don't just take a role just for the sake of acting. Like, make sure it's the right role. You know what I mean? I think that when you're a creative and, you know, when you're when I was an AD, I'll AD anything. I don't give a shit. If you pay me, I'll AD it. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about the integrity of the final product because I'm just the first
Your job's
AD.
to get it done.
Yeah. But when you're directing or you're acting, like when you're the face of it or the name of it, then it's a
your
different,
reputation.
yeah, it's a different ball game. So I was going through a bit of that during 2013, 14, where it came knocking things back, and then we did the next short, which was, again, the next short I did was a short I didn't write. It was given to me to direct, called 5 Stages, which was like a drama, which was it was fun. I really enjoyed that project.
So what cool things happened on that project?
Just interpreting it and going, okay, well, I didn't write it, so now I get to...
This would be the first one you haven't written that you've done since Underscore, correct?
Yeah.
So about, what, 4 or 5 years?
4 years, yeah. 4.5 years, yeah.
So
I don't know.
So
but
how did you tackle that the second time
well,
with all your knowledge?
I liked the story better. That was the thing. I felt 5 Stages had a bit of a story to it, whereas I felt Underscore didn't at the time. And I was also kind of like, I personally connected with it a little bit. You know what I mean? It was like a little breakup thing, and I was going through my own drama back then. So I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of relating to this a little bit. I can dig it. So I'd pitch my ideas, and one of the things I said to... So the person who wrote it was the actor and writer. So he wrote it to be in it. And I said to him, look, I mean, if I'm going to direct it, I mean, not necessarily like my way or the highway, but I'm taking on the responsibility. It's my reputation. I want it to be my way, which we agreed to. And then so I threw my ideas at it, and then we kind of had a back and forth on the script for a little bit. And then we went through the process as well. But it was an interesting... I enjoyed it a lot. And I actually do like the film. I really do like the film. I ended up leaving the project for just, reasons, but... It was a fun experience because I thought it was George killed it on that, and that's when you see George's progression as a DP, a cinematographer. Like, he did an amazing job on that. The actors were fun to work with, and to really learn that the fun bit with that one as well was because I said in 2012 with Wild Couple and onwards, I was getting a lot happy with my writing. So when I got that script, and I was like, I feel more qualified now to point out what's wrong with it. I feel more qualified to fix it. I feel more qualified to do it, which I did. Like, and I felt like the script I got given to direct and the script I made are 2 different scripts almost. Because I was going, okay, I need arcs here. I need resolutions. I need purpose to resolutions.
And you're able to spot them, implement them.
Yeah, and I spotted them from a mile away. And I was like, this is what we need to do to fix it. And then, when we were doing that, and it was a work in progress the whole time we were shooting it, because I think that the script was just it had a lot of holes in it that we were trying to fill on the go. Which we did. And
it's also one where, talk about how you realized the appropriateness of needing reshoots at this point.
Yeah, so
because you had the iconic scene there, where the 2 guys meet up and clubbing.
Yeah. So we did so the weird thing with 5 Stages is we shot it. I went off and I went off and first AD'd a feature, and then I came back. So we literally wrapped it. And then a week later, I was already committed to an AD gig for like 10 weeks.
Wow.
So I wasn't even looking at 5 Stages. And when you're ADing, guys, I can't stress this enough. Like, if call time's 8 a.m. and wrap time's like 5 p.m. 6 p.m., you're getting there at 7 minimum, 6:30, 7 o'clock you're getting there. So an hour and a half before call time, and you're usually staying 2 hours back. So your 10-hour day easily becomes a 13, 14-hour day. Then you go home and you're going through the schedules, you're going through the call sheets, you're having to approve call sheets, you work, like, your days are like 18-hour days at this point. So you don't have time to fuck off and go finish a short film. Like, you just don't have that time, that luxury. Because they're long shoot dates as well, and full weeks and full blocks and shit. So we kind of did that. I did that 10 odd weeks or whatever it was on the feature film, and I came back to 5 Stages, and I remember watching the cut, because we were cutting it at that point, and it just felt so holy. Like, it just felt so, like, it just jumped. And it just felt so, like... But it was already at that point where I was like, shit, it's already like 20 minutes long. And it's a short. It was already at dangerous, like, length level.
So what steps do you take there as a director to notice, all right, something's missing here, I need to cut things out?
At this point in time, like, I was at a point where I didn't care. Like, I didn't care about the length in a way, because I was like, I didn't give a shit. I'm making what I want to make.
Length
because, again...
As long as the story's told.
Well, again, I'm sitting there going, this is a short film. this is what I said a couple of weeks ago, last week, whenever it was. I said, know what you're making. Like, okay, fair enough. And I remember the producer at the time, she was like, oh, we got to think of festivals. And I think the actor producer was saying the same thing. And in my head, I was like, I don't give a fuck about festivals. But at the same token, it's like, that's my opinion. That's not a fact. And
so
that's
your priority was just make it
I wanted
good,
to make the film I wanted to make.
Yeah,
I wanted to make the film I wanted to make. And so I said to him, look, I want to do things my way first. When I do it my way, then we'll look at your way. You know what I mean? But I want to do it my way first. And so I remember looking at that cut going, okay, well, it's 20 minutes long. But there was moments to cut out of it. But I was like, but we've missed a massive character jump here, like a character arc here. Like we've just gone from I'm dwelling, I'm sad, I'm miserable to I'm fine now. And there was no justification behind that. So I pitched it to the producer and the actor. I said, we need to do a reshoot. And I felt like we had no ending. Like I just felt like the film just ended really randomly. Mm-hmm. So I was like, we need a new ending and we need a scene in the middle, right? So, and I wrote all that myself. Like I wrote the scene in the middle between the mother and the son in terms of trying to, help him through his thing. Because I wanted a tough love scene in there. I wanted him to get smacked by someone he gave a shit about.
So, excuse me for having a hard time moving on.
So that's it, is it? You're going to slave away for the rest of your life to give Zoe this good life when she's actually out there living hers. I'm not going to sit here and say that she wasn't any good, that you're better off without her, because that's not entirely true. I know in my heart that Zoe wants you to move on with your life, to have a life that doesn't involve slaving away for another.
What would you know?
You used to be this bright kid, this boy of many talents. In the last 4 years, you just let it slip. I know you've had Zoe, but you've just lost this sense of who you are. I'm saying this because it's time now that you have got to pick yourself up and you have got to get out there and you have got to start living your life again. Because I know for God's sake that she is.
And so we just had a scene between, so pretty much like, you probably lost where we are, but 5 Stages is pretty much a short film about a guy who's broken up with his girlfriend.
Doesn't get over her.
Can't get over her. He's gone through that. There's the 5 stages of grief in terms of a breakup is why it's called 5 Stages. And we follow him through that kind of the journey of anger and denial and all this other shit going through his head. And then he runs into his girlfriend at a nightclub who he sees that she's moved on and she does the final nail in the coffin. Because everyone that's been through a breakup understands you have the breakup and then you have the few months of uncertainty. Are we going to get back together or not? Or is this final? In most cases, that happens, right? So he was going through that 3-month period.
Yeah, I know that feeling right now.
Yeah. So he's going through that 3-month period and then he has the final confrontation with the girlfriend. That's the nail in the coffin. And I remember in the original script, it was just a text message conversation. And then we cast a great a great actor as the ex-girlfriend for the flashback scenes. And I said, nah, she's a good actress. We've got to utilise this. Like, we've got to utilise her. Like, she's great. It should be a confrontation, not a text.
Yes.
Because a text, that's weak. Just putting text on screen, that's weak. Like,
not visually stimulating.
Yeah, some might disagree with me, but I felt this is something that I want to have the final nail in person. And we did that scene in the park, which was it was a great scene. But like, so we had that moment.
Yeah, I rocked
and then
up to say hi and you made me do work.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We did.
I didn't even have a job on the film, and you're like, "Hey,
but you did. You post on that though.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, once again, you were editing, so you were using my editing.
That's right.
I couldn't escape you at that point.
No, that's true. So we had this kind of scene where he kind of breaks up with the girl for good, or so she breaks up with him for good, and then we just jump to him getting his life back together.
It doesn't happen.
And I was like, what did we've missed this massive chunk in the middle. So I said, well, I want a scene where he's moping and gets like smacked and a bit of tough love. So I said, I'm going to write a scene between him and the mum just to kind of like have the mum, instead of being that kind of, oh, poor baby, he's like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like gets really like tough love with him. And luckily enough, man, the actress we brought in for the mum is a jet. And she was blessed. Like the caliber of actors I've worked with over my 12 years, I'm blessed. Like I will say that I'm blessed because I've worked with some fucking incredible actors. And she's brilliant. Like, and I'll work with her. I can't wait to work with her again and run it back with her at some point. But like, she came in and played that role and killed it. It was one of my favorite scenes of the whole film. So we did that scene, which then motivated the kind of time jump into him getting his life back together. So I think we shot a few like little montagey shots. Mm-hmm. Did that, and then we kind of follow on from there. And you know, and then we had to rework the ending as well to kind of make it feel a little bit more of a bow tie on it and kind of do it that way. And so we kind of went back and reshot that, which are things that should have been evident in the script, but then after like shooting it, having 10 weeks off, coming back to it and going, no, it's missing something, I made the decision. I didn't give a shit about the runtime right now. I want a complete film.
So what key parts of your skills, knowledge, and experience at this point do you feel qualified you to say, I'm at the part in my career where I know these scenes are needed, I know they need to go in here, and I need everyone else to trust me?
Confidence, really.
Yeah?
Confidence in your ability, yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, when people turn around and they're like, oh, well, you're worried about a certain thing, like, it's all good to worry about length. Of course it is. You know what I mean? In terms of...
Well, especially if you've got something like Trop Fest.
Yeah,
where
we need to be
is,
doing this. This should be under 16 minutes. Yeah, okay, fair enough too. But at the same token, if you're not pitching ideas on how to shorten it...
Get the film right first?
Yeah, get the film right first. Let's solve one problem. We've got an incomplete film. Let's complete it first. I'm qualified to fucking say that. For sure.
Lovely.
You know what I mean? But also at the same time, it's like, I like to run my own shop. So, for me, like, the biggest thing when you come up... And this is what happens. You go to film school, and then you get out of film school, and you start working on big sets, and you get all these people who are trying to tell you how it is. And one of the things I've tried to do in this podcast is, it's not necessarily trying to tell... I've just told you my experiences. I'm not telling you how to do things. I'm just saying this is my experiences.
I've noticed.
This is how I've
I'm having an absolute nightmare trying to translate that into useful advice for people.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like the advice you get is so hit and miss. Like, there's more advice on what not to do and how not to do things and on how to do shit. You know what I mean? Because I feel, and this is just from my experience.
Still, but I'm sure you know by now some good ways to tackle things.
Well, people I've worked with coming up just lacked, like, they follow a rule book to the T. Like, and I don't know where this rule book was invented from, because
I haven't seen it.
The greatest who have ever done it do their own thing. They don't follow the rule book.
Well, they define their rule book.
They define
how
it.
they've got
And
their style.
that's how I've decided from a very young point in my career. That's what I'm going to do. I'm calling my own shot.
Well, if you're trying to do someone else's style, then you know you're going to be beaten by someone else.
But even just like the way we go about it, like people are, you can't do this way, you can't do this, you can't do that, and I want to try. Yeah, I want to try to break it down, because people are, if you're making a short, it shouldn't be any more than this and that. Well, says who? Yeah. If I want to make a 25-minute, if I want to make something that's 35 minutes long, I'm going to make something that's 35 minutes long. Hey, can you market it everywhere? Probably not. Are some festivals going to reject it because of its length? Of course they will. But at the end of the day, guys, get it through your head. A short film is a stepping stone. And it's a great stepping stone, and you will learn so much through that stepping stone. But at the end of the day, you're not going to make money off it. You're not going to fucking, and there's some odd occasions where maybe the short does get turned into a feature, and that's great as well. But if you go into it planning that, fantastic, and go do it.
And credit to some examples where that's happened. Lee's Sacrifice that...
the Sacrifice film that we EP'd a year or so, 2 years ago. Yeah, they turned
so
into a
88
feature
to 1
film.
and, yeah.
But at the same token, like, it started off as a short, you know what I mean? And the thing is as well, like, he didn't go into it and say it has to be 12 minutes long. Like, one thing I liked about that was they went into it and said, we'll make it and then we'll work out the length and shit from there. But yeah, there's so many rules that people put on you that you have to follow, which don't really need to be followed. And, you know what I mean? And you see it all the time on social media. Jump into any film group and everyone wants to put their 10 cents in, which is fine, like, if it's useful advice. But hey, motivate people. You know what I mean? Like, really push people. Don't be negative all the time. And there's a lot of negativity. Like, you learn more negativity than positivity when you're coming up as a young.
I think that's any industry.
But yeah, it is. But I can only talk for the industry I'm in.
True. All right. So I believe we're finally up to the last stepping stone before you had a major change in your life, which culminated ultimately in TKG. So what was the name of the final stepping stone?
So I went back, and there was a good year nearly between 5 stages in my next short. And I was kind of in this kind of... And again, you got to remember, from 2013 onwards, my mindset was feature film, right? But then shit happens. Like, you just can't. Like, I was young, man. Like, when you're under 30, it's so fucking difficult.
I remember one of my lecturers telling me on the night I graduated TAFE, he said, until you're 25, things are going to be difficult and you're not going to really know your place.
Yeah.
And that's partly not only you learning and getting experience, but also, as you're saying, the whole other factor of no one takes a 23-year-old seriously, no matter how much you know.
I think it depends what role you are. I think that for the minor crew roles, till 25. I think for the major crew roles, you have to be over 30 before people start taking you seriously. Fucking oath. Like, unless you've got the kit and caboodle to back it up,
you can't
which is
that.
which I'm trying to get and have. You know what I mean? So, but so I was kind of like in this kind of realm of, I still want to do a feature and I still want to do a feature, but realistically, shit's kicking in. I'm 26. I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to do?
Got to do something.
And I remember I was like, well, I set out to make a trilogy, but I'm only 2 films into it. So I've only done 2 out of the 3. And so I went back and said to the crew, I said, let's run it and let's finish the trilogy, right? Because I think that's the logical step to do. That was before I went through some like career changing and life changing stuff. So I was kind of like, all right, let's finish the trilogy. So kind of got the main kind of crew back together. I think we got Elena back on as production design. I think you came on as sound. Georgie obviously shooting.
This is basically the A-team.
Yeah, and Johnny came back on as producer. And so we're kind of like, let's finish this thing. Well, let's do this trilogy and let's go out with the bang. Like, because I think really subconsciously I knew going into it's my last short that I'll do. Or at least for a substantial amount of time, unless there was like a reason to do a short.
Gotcha.
In my head, I was kind of already alluding to the fact that this will be the last short I will do. And I promised myself after Kingpins, it was called The Kingpin's Daughter, after that film, I will make a feature next. And that's what I kind of told myself. So kind of going into it. And I remember saying to the crew, like, we'll do it like we did Wild Couple. We'll do it like we did Henchmen and 3am. Like, we'll do really skeleton crew. We'll just have the bare essential people on board. And we'll just knock it out of the park. And then we kind of got into production with it.
That did not happen.
Next minute, everyone's putting their hands up. They want to come on board. So all of a sudden, we had like a full camera lighting department. It was the biggest. Like, I'm pretty sure the camera lighting department on Kingpins was bigger than TKG.
True.
You know what I mean? I think that we
had enough people back in WA that wanted another shot with you.
We had someone come on board for costume. We had someone come on board for makeup, and like all of a sudden, like it was expanding, and all of a sudden, we had a crew of like 25. And it was like, for a short, I was like, this is pretty good. I mean, shorts you should be able to do with 10 or less, you know what I mean? So I was like, wow, this is great. And all these people came on board, and credit to the team. Because when you're working with people you enjoy working with, they want to keep coming back. So credit to the team. But the other thing as well is, you got to remember in Australia, it's rare to come across scripts that you might get excited about. It just is. Like, and I hate to say it, like, there's not many scripts that I first AD'd that I loved. They weren't bad scripts. And when I say I loved, there's a difference between saying they're good and bad, quality-wise, or you just love them or didn't love them. There's scripts I worked on that were nice scripts. They were well-written scripts. They were, you
got to relate with them.
But they're not entertaining. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're shooting it, there's nothing exciting to shoot. You're just sitting there going, okay. Like, it is what it is, right? But when we did Kingpins, because it was obviously in a church, it was like a thriller. There was cat and mouse. There was shootouts in a church and all this shit. Like, everybody just wanted it. Everyone came on board and was like, we want to work on this thing. It sounds cool. So next minute, like, we had a full-fledged crew operating on this thing. We shot on Easter weekend, I remember, in 2015.
And you brought an A-grade cast as well. I mean...
Oh, my God, yeah.
Matt Zapala was great. Jared Dehara's the main villain.
Yeah.
Once again, fantastic performances there. And particularly the other guys. I mean, you had...
Ethan Thomas.
Yeah.
Ethan Thomas. Still was a show.
Yes.
Ethan Thomas, for sure. Still was a show. Like, he was incredible. I love Ethan. Incredible.
Credit to you, Ethan.
Yeah.
But you also had a few other guys coming up there that you were beginning to work with. If you remember, you also had Mikey.
Yep.
Yeah. Once again, someone you'd found fairly recently, filled him in on a position, and gelled in pretty well with the rest of the cast.
Yes. Yep.
Are you going to continue chuckling, or is there something I'm missing here?
I don't know who Mikey is.
Never mind then. You're terrible at this.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to remember who. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
He ended up being your star person for NFTA.
Oh, that mic. There was 2 mics on that then.
Oh my God, there was 2.
Yes, I was sorry. Yeah, the other mic.
Both the mics were amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was.
But I don't think I've ever called either of them Mikey, so that's why I was getting confused. Because I was like, I don't call anyone Mikey.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a sound guy. I don't get to know what the nicknames are. I just have to point a mic at
we had
them.
2 Michaels on that were both great.
Yeah. The only mic I had to worry about was the one on the end of a stick.
Good one. That was good. But you had a great cast on it and fun. But the funny thing is, the casting process for that one went through like a massive... Because we were supposed to shoot it December 2014. Mm-hmm. And then the location pulled the pin on us like 2 days before shoot.
I heard about that.
So we had to then reschedule. And by rescheduling, we lost 2 cast members. Because they were just, couldn't commit to the new shoot dates, which was Easter weekend of 2015.
I remember.
It's so funny when the church gives you permission to shoot on Easter weekend. And that was the only weekend they had available for like months.
And they didn't even know that you were shooting people.
Mm-hmm. We may have given them a different version of the script. That guys, don't do that. That's rude. You shouldn't do that. But like, yeah, I mean, we just wanted to get it done, and that was one of the cheekier things that we did. I think we had to give him a different version of the script that just lacked the violence. Still the same dialogue was still the same.
Yep.
But it just lacked the shootouts and violence and stuff. And when the priest was asking, like, "Oh yeah, what's it about?" It's like, "Oh, it's just a girl trying to find Jesus." Like, oh shit.
Jesus is actually a really menacing guy with a knife.
Yeah, exactly.
Named Walker.
She was running from Jesus. But yeah, but that was a fun shoot again. Night shoots, because again, we're just committed to night shoots all the time.
Nighttime works especially for light. It gives George more to play with.
Yeah, it does, yeah. But it looked great.
And he lit up those stained glass windows really well.
Yeah, and it was fun. But it wasn't, like, if you ask me, like, it's not my favourite of shorts I've done. You know what I mean? I think there was one element to it. You know, I think I think there was some great performances in it, but there was a performance that was in it that didn't click with me.
Okay.
Which I was kind of like, if I had my time again, I would have done some things differently.
Makes sense.
So that's why, you know, in terms of short films, it's not up there for me. But visually it is. Like, visually it looks great. And again, it was a nice way to cap the trilogy, because with the trilogy was, when we said this in week 1, it was the first time I got to work with composers and do original scores and themes, and then had the colour palettes running throughout the trilogy. So the trilogy as a collection, technically, yes, all the elements of directing's there for me. Like, from a collective of there was just 2 elements in number 1 and number 3 that got missed. And I think that taught me lessons about the casting process. That taught me lessons about how to identify certain things early days before I commit to working with a certain performer. And it's not a knock on the performers. I think, like, you know, it's whether or not you put too much on them before they're ready to take that role on. And, you know, and the thing is, like, you could watch the 3 films back to back, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Because, you know, it's obvious that, you know, there was a couple of, like, links there that weren't quite there. And again, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, so I won't say it. But overall, that didn't stop me from being confident in what I was doing. Because I was like, okay, look, yes, there was a couple of performances that weren't where they needed to be. And yes, I'm going to put that on me as the person who casted them and put them in those positions. But at the end of the day, it's like, from a technical point of view, like, holy shit, all the directing stuff everything was coming together. It's like we know how to play with soundscape now, we know how to play with music, we know how to play with colour palettes, we know how to play with angles and everything like that. You know, if I get 1 or 2 more things right, I'm good to go.
All right, so that was your last short. So what does good to go mean at this point? Not just, you know, for where you were, you know, as making films and stuff, but also your career as a director and where you wanted to take it.
So pretty much at this point in time, and we haven't talked about all 16, but I've made 16 short films up until this point.
These are your key ones, I'd say.
Yeah. And the milestone ones for sure. But, you know, I was at a point now where I was like, okay, I've done 16 of these. I've learned lessons on every single one of them. I've learned new things on every single one of them. I'm finally ready to then put all this into a feature. Now, I've been believing that for the last probably 4 or 5 short films I've done. So, and this is where my advice to directors
So you came out of each of these previous 4 films, you know, believing you were there. And I imagine every time you did the next film, you were like, okay, I actually wasn't there last time, but I am now.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if I'd done another 2 or 3 shorts after Kingpins, I'd probably have the same opinion. Because I think
and
there's
I imagine
a certain...
you feel the same now after a feature.
Yeah, I think there's a certain threat. I to be honest with you, like, I'm happy with my work on the feature. Like, I wouldn't go back and, like, when you ask me, like, if you ask me would I go back and do a lot different, no, I'm probably not.
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously tweaks here or there for sure. But
but it's more about knowing what to do moving on.
But yeah, would I be confident enough to do it? Yeah, fucking oath. But, like, I think that my advice to filmmakers would be, like, you do these shorts again, and I said it before, they're stepping stones, because you got to pick up things as you go. And you pick up things to go to you at a certain level that you're going, okay, I believe I can do this on the long form. Because there is a massive discrepancy. And this is what I said, I can't remember what week I said it, but there was an episode of this that I said, until you've done a feature or something long form, don't think that you're a director yet. Because there's a big difference between doing a 15-minute film and doing a 2-hour film. Massive difference. Like, you know what I mean? It's for obvious reasons, for goodness sake. But, like,
you've got a whole lot
because
more to
because you've got to put people don't understand. Like, everyone always asks, what does a director do? You know what I mean? Like, because they don't know, and rightfully so. Like, you're not supposed to. And there's everything. You know what I mean? That's not an exaggeration. It's everything. You got to know everything. You know, your job is to manipulate the audience into feeling certain emotions, and you got so many tools to do that with. Obviously, the performance, the writing, the angles,
literally
the
every
sound,
department,
everything. Like, watch a horror movie on mute. You know what I'm saying? And then you'll see the difference between what a soundscape can do. You know what I mean? So you got to learn to play your soundscape. So there's so many elements and tools you've got to play with and not repeat too much of. If you keep repeating that whole build up, stop. To kind of create a suspenseful moment. You play that too much in a film, ugh. So you got to find new ways to create that suspense without using the same tricks all the time. You know what I mean? Which in a 15-minute film, it's a lot easier to do than a 2-hour film.
True.
You know what I mean? If you're trying to do drama and maintain drama and intensity,
so you need a larger tool belt to create.
You need to understand your tools, and the only way to understand your tools is to use the tools. You know what I mean? You can't there's only so many manuals you can read. There's so many textbooks you can read, right? I got that. But there's only so many textbooks you can read. As soon as you implement something, it's when you learn how to do it. And I think by doing the 16 odd films, you go, okay, I'm confident enough to know that I think throughout all these 16, I've used all the tools in my arsenal. And, I worked with a director on a short a couple of years ago where I was just producing. So I was just kind of in the distance and I was watching them work. And I knew straight up they didn't understand the tools. Because, and the thing is, and I'll give my 10 cents because I've made the mistakes. I've made so many mistakes, and I can't stress this enough. The early days of my short film career, I'm shooting cool shots and they're not cutting together. So what do I do if I'm guiding someone or mentoring someone? I'm trying to explain to them why some of the shooting doesn't work. You know what I mean? You got to understand as well as a filmmaker, when is handheld appropriate? When do you use handheld to when do you use loose head? When do you use, you know what I mean? When does it static? You know what I mean? So there's so many. Look, if you're doing a moving shot, why are you doing it? What's the motivation behind that moving shot besides the fact that it'll look cool and it'll up the production value? You know what I mean? You need to give reasons why. You know what I mean? And then as you do it more and more, it becomes second nature. So
exactly is there any threshold at which it will look cool and up the production value is appropriate, just on its own? Can you ever let that stand as a reason?
Cutaways, yeah.
Cool.
Do a drone shot, cutaway, ups the production value straight away. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Not during a scene.
A good example.
Yeah, but there's different techniques to do it but again, you can do it as long as you've motivated it. But the people but you can tell those who haven't motivated it because they're just going to do it unnecessarily. You know what I mean? And it's okay, well, if I want this to work, okay, so, for instance, we did a scene in TKG where you've got a group of characters talking and we decided to do a little swirly. So you do a couple of takes of, spinning around them. Looks cool, ups the production value, but it's motivated as well because there's so many different ideas being thrown out there that you're disjoining the audience a little bit because the audience is trying to keep up with what's going on. And they're going, who's talking? What's going on? People are talking off camera. I'm not sure because that's how the characters feel. So now because that's how the characters feel, I want the audience to feel the same way. I want that level of uncertainty to create anxiety.
Nice.
And that's what you do. So you can motivate it. But you don't learn that doing one little short film here or there. So that's why I say
you pick up one key thing or two
which
key
goes
moments.
back to what I was saying in week 1. It's keep creating because each short film you're adding to your tools. You're adding to your arsenal of what you want to create and what you're going to do. That's going to pay off in the long run as a filmmaker.
And it gives you that been there, done that in a positive way where, you know, I know how to tackle this because it's happened before.
Yeah.
Nice. So, you'd finished your films at this point. What did you do to, progress your career here? Because it took an interesting turn at this point. One that did lead to a feature, but not exactly the most direct way. Yeah,
so pretty much I started working with an academy called New Faces Talent Academy. Mm-hmm. So they came to WA and, there was it was an academy based off helping performers break into the industry. So they came in and through a mutual contact, I got put onto them to kind of do some coaching performances and stuff. Now, at the time, I was a little bit look, I'm not a coach. I don't like to look at myself as an acting coach. No way. I think there's way more qualified people to do so. But there's knowledge that I've got. There's wisdom that I've got that I know I can pass on and help and create performances. And because it wasn't an acting school, it was a kind of an industry school. We're going to help you break into the industry. We're going to teach you about the industry and also coach some of your performances. So it wasn't necessarily coaching skill sets. It was coaching performance, which I was qualified to do. So I was like, okay, I'm qualified to do that. So I kind of came on board and started working with performers, which kind of revitalized me a little bit. And it gave me kind of a bit of direction at the time because I think I was at a point where if I stayed just doing what I was doing at the time, I just would have been treading water for a few years. I know that for a fact. So I kind of worked with NFTA, which then became Fusion Entertainment Studios, and met some great people along the way, worked with some great people along the way. That brought me over to Melbourne. So obviously I'm moving over to Melbourne and moved my company over to Melbourne. Kind of changed the direction of my career. I got to work with agencies all across Australia. I got to work with casting directors all across Australia. And when you're working with these people, qualified agents and casting directors, you're learning a lot more about the industry. You're learning more about where everything goes and where everything fits. And then I learned that I just love to mentor and I love to kind of give knowledge away. Even though at that time I felt I've done a bit in my career, but I've still got a long ways to go. But it was helping me stay active and stay committed and learning more, because I was like, well, if I'm going to give,
so you're still
if
developing.
I'm going to give back, I've got to learn everything. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it also put me in a situation where, and because I got to coach monologues a lot, I was rewriting a lot of monologues, so it was helping my writing.
Nice.
And because I was teaching character stuff, it was helping me again build character. So I'd be doing workshops, then going home and writing, because I was like, oh, this has inspired me to write something, or this inspired me to go do something over here. So I did that for a long period of time. We built that company from scratch in 2014, and pretty much up to 2017, 2018. I was like, shit, we've built this company and it's going well, but you get that itch back to go, no, I wasn't a director. I've got to get back to directing.
And this time, thanks to the resources you've built up.
Yeah, and being able to then be in a position to go, okay, I've got a chance to make an indie feature film with the resources I've created and been given access to at Fusion Studios. To be able to have a studio to call our own was fantastic, and to be able to kind of shoot out of our studio was brilliant as well. So I was like, the opportunity is there to use what you've got. And we're able to do so. And because we had good relationships with a lot of the agents, they obviously jumped on board to
Yes.
send actors to us and help us cast it and everything like that. And they were great to work with across the board. So it was an interesting little detour that then helped my career heaps. But again, but this also comes with sacrifice. Like, I was given some good opportunities with Fusion. Like, I got given a lot of opportunities to turn down more money early to make more money later.
Yes.
And these are things that you learn that, okay, take a short-term hit for a long-term payoff. And when you start to learn
self-sacrifice
that,
and learning to provide for your future you.
yeah, when you can see a
it's
future,
the basis of looking after yourself.
when you can see a future in something, and you know to go gun ho, you don't give a shit about short-term reward. You're just looking for long-term benefit. And so that taught me a lot about business. It taught me a lot about that, and obviously then getting to work with, again, people that are at the top of the Australian film industry, and you get to kind of spitball with them and talk shit with them and talk shop, and you start saying shit you're doing, and they're taking an interest in what you're doing. So you know all of a sudden that when I go to do something, I know I've got eyes on what I'm doing. And it's very motivating, you know what I mean? So without Fusion, my career probably would have been treading water for quite a bit without Fusion Studios. So to be able to then work with Fusion Studios and help build that company to where it got to, really gave purpose
And
again.
receiving kind.
And every time as well, and this is what I say to people, like, it's okay to take a sidestep for a minute to keep purpose in something. And I think,
True, but you stayed in the game though. It was still.
I never left the game. No, I never left the game. But you sidestep in the game, and and that was a funny thing as well, because I remember during that time I actually started a new passion. I actually wanted to become an agent, because after working with performers for so long, and they're still in the back of my mind, if I wasn't a director, I'd be a talent agent for sure. And I already got a list of clients that would sign with me straight up. But that's the thing.
Should people be watching this space?
Potentially. Like,
Okay.
it's something that I definitely will visit in the future. I'm not saying I'm going to do it soon, but it's definitely something
Still
that...
plenty more features from
Yeah,
it.
but I think after doing TKG, I was a little... Because before TKG, I was a little bit like uncertain. I think at the start of 2018, I was at a genuine crossroads of, do I want to direct or do I want to represent? Like, do I want to represent actors or do I want to direct? Because I don't feel I can do them hand in hand, because the level of commitment that both takes, you just can't do them hand in hand.
Correct.
So, I'm at a point where... And because I did own and dabble in an agency when I was a lot younger. Like, I co-owned and co-ran a modelling agency that was branching into talent, but I didn't know as much as I did now. So when I got into before TKG, I was almost like, well, I don't know, maybe I will steer into being an agent. Yeah, I mean, I did love that, and I do love that kind of business. But then I got into TKG, and I was just like, nah, man, like, I love directing too much, like, I really do. And it revitalized and reignited all the fucking passion that I kind of put on pause a few years earlier. So for people who are emerging and up and coming, especially like short filmmakers who have made a few short films and maybe it's been 2 or 3 years and they're still trying to get their first feature up as well, like, don't stress, like, but keep accountability on what you're doing, and don't be afraid to just go, okay, let's try and get something done. And the more you try to push to get shit done, the better off you'll be for it.
And that's fantastic, man. Is there anything else you particularly want to add on this? Because we've done a fantastic run through of your journey here.
Yeah, trip down memory lane for sure.
Well, it's good to see how, you yourself can identify the things that you learnt when you learnt them and how they helped you.
I think the thing is, like, the biggest thing I want to pass on to people is, one, don't be afraid of constructive criticism. It's going to be helpful. There's going to be criticism that's unjustified, and there's going to be compliments that are fake. You know what I mean? So it's being able to identify those two things as well. But it's also just kind of staying accountable to yourself and keep pushing yourself, and don't stress too much if, like, lost time's not always time lost. It's only lost if you're doing nothing with it. You know what I mean? If you're always writing and you're always developing and you're always pushing yourself to tell stories and do things, like that's not time wasted. That's still time that is being used well. So, look, don't be afraid to get into it, and for every little hurdle you have or every little delay you have in your journey and your goal, like don't stress about it as long as you make up for it.
And how about the one key thing that you've spent the last more than 2 hours going over, self-reflection on yourself as a career? How important is that for directors?
Huge. And it's being able to sit down, rewatch your work, identify your mistakes. Because what I do is I sit down and say, look, I understand people's confidence is fragile. It's easy to lose confidence. It's hard to gain confidence, but it can be easy to lose at times. So when you go over and look over your work, there's 2 ways to do it. I'm my own worst critic, but I'm not a dick to myself. Like, I know I'm good, and I know I'm good in so many areas. So I don't stress about that because I'm like, okay, I know I'm good, and I know I can flick that switch, and I know I can do all these things with my eyes closed. But there's a lot of things I can't do yet. There's a lot of things I still struggle with. So I look at it with an open mind, and I go over my old work, and I study my old work, and I go, okay, what worked, what didn't. I read my old scripts, what worked and what didn't work.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Do you ever rewrite a couple of them just slightly differently? Or is it mostly just new content?
Yeah. Sorry, had to think about that. Yeah, of course I do. Like I go over certain scripts that I completely rewrite, or some I take the concept that I like, and obviously now I'm a better writer. I'll deal with that. But yeah, it's self-reflection. Whether you're just a director, an actor, a DP, whoever, I think everyone should self-reflect, and everyone should kind of look through their work and look for where to improve. And it's doing it with an even mind and a balanced mind of saying, okay, know that you've done good work, know you've done some really good work over here, but also understand some things that you may have left behind. And what I do is I break that down again. So the shit that I didn't like, or the shit that I've kind of I think I could do better.
So what went well or what didn't go well?
Yeah,
why?
what didn't go well, and I break it down with a fine tooth. And I find any reason to make it my fault. Because there's certain things on productions that's just, you can't help. You know what I mean? Like if something goes wrong, sometimes 9 times out of 10, there's going to be someone else to blame. But if I can find a way to make it my fault, then it becomes a challenge for me to rectify that. So then it keeps me an eye to look out for it. So I love doing that. Like I love taking the full brunt of whatever it is and breaking that shit down.
Find the biggest burden you can bear and then bear it. Basic Petersonisms.
Yeah, sure. But that's what I like to do, and I have fun in that. I love analysing my stuff, and I love analysing my work, and you know what I mean. I'm never satisfied in just making something and then that's what I was saying in week 1. I was like, I never want to put out a film and do a 2-year festival run with it. Are you kidding me? Like TKG releases this year, I want to be on set before I even have to watch that again. I want to be shooting my next thing before I have to watch that for 110th time. You know what I mean? Because that's how I am. Like,
Pretty sure 110 was back last year.
Yeah, but I just want to keep working, you know what I mean? And that's what I want to do.
Oh, and we look forward to seeing what comes out from you, especially as the quarantine lifts over.
Yeah.
And, quarantine is the reason that we're here at the moment. And once again, we're still listening to you guys. We're still really happy with your feedback. Thank you very much for all of the stuff that we're getting. Plenty of social media stuff, which you ran over because today they have been asking, what's your journey? How'd you get here? What advice you got? That's been incredibly comprehensive, man.
Struggles and shit like that.
Thanks very much for everything today.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, and as for you guys, of course, as usual, quarantine at 88to1 Productions. We are listening. Hit us up on Facebook with instant messaging. We're paying attention. We can't wait to talk and engage with you guys. We are also looking forward to maybe engaging with a few other people as the quarantine pods move on and introduce you to some of the friends that we work with, how they go together, and develop this podcast a bit more. So thanks very much for watching. I hope we haven't bored you too much with the last 2.5 hours worth of content. But thanks very much, Damien.
No worries, man. Appreciate it.
Till next time.
Catch you.